Good morning. I used to say that when we were meeting in person every Sunday, and everybody would say good morning back. So from your homes where you're watching this, if you're watching it live, let me hear you say, good morning. Thank you. Thank you. Whether you're watching this live or as a later recording, I would like to welcome you to this service, and I hope you are okay. It's been, I wasn't in the pulpit last Sunday, but the Sunday before we had to cancel the service because everything was out. The power was out. It was a terrible storm. So I hope you got your power back if you lost it. I hope you got a tarp on your roof if it's leaking until you can get your roof repaired. I hope you got all those giant limbs in your yard cut up and carted away. What a mess. As I was thinking about this latest storm, I realized that there are all sorts of storms that people go through in life, and that this is a place of shelter from the hatred and the cruelty, the indifference, the hectic pace, the endless demands of life out in the world. And so may you feel, when you enter this community, whether virtually or hopefully literally enter someday soon, we hope that this is a place of shelter for you, the kind of shelter you need to restore your spirit, your heart, and your soul. Welcome to our spiritual shelter.
Our opening hymn today is I Seek the Spirit of a Child. It's number 338 in the Gray Hymnal. I seek the spirit of a child who meets life naturally, the child who sings the world alive and greets the morning sun with glee. Children are real beyond all art. May they see joy's a gift to our heart. I seek the freedom of a child who loves instinctively, who lights
Good morning and welcome. I'm Sarah Pickett, your celebrant today, filling in for Brenna Norval, who is recovering from foot surgery. So please have her in your thoughts. I'm sure she's in her thoughts. Also, I would like to say a special good morning after last night to Margaret and Craig, if I can say their names correctly, Margaret and Craig, and Jean and Carol and Ed. Good morning. A quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. People deal too much with the negative, with what is wrong. Why not try and see positive things? To just touch those things and make them bloom. What in your life are you helping to make bloom? That's the question for the day. Write it in your comments, and we will share them with everyone. We can also do this by saying our affirmation together. Love is our doctrine. Compassion is our way. Here we seek to create a joyful home for free religious exploration. Build a community of caring fellowship, nurture the hopes, and serve the needs of our world. Each week, we light 3 chalices. The first is for the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Salem, our congregation. The second chalice we light for our partner church, the Unitarian Partner Church in Shimafalva, Transylvania, Romania. And the third we light not for our social justice candle yet, but we will later. But we do light it now for our children and youth in religious education and in the world at large. May the light of these chalices renew our commitment to respect the inner worth of all people, to affirm and promote acceptance of one another and encouragement for spiritual growth both in ourselves and in our congregations. Please join me in singing the flame into life.
Rise up, O flame, by thy light glowing, show to us beauty, vision, and joy.
Hello and welcome to the Time for All Ages portion of the service. The story I'm going to tell you today is called The Rabbit Listened by Corey Doerfield. One day, Taylor decided to build something new, something special, something amazing. Taylor was so proud, but then, out of nowhere, things came crashing down. The chicken was the first to notice. Cluck, cluck, what a shame. I'm so sorry this happened. Let's talk about it. Cluck, cluck. But Taylor didn't feel like talking, so the chicken left. Next came the bear. Grawr, how horrible. I bet you feel so angry. Let's shout about it. Rawr. Roar! Roar! But Taylor didn't feel like shouting, so the bear left. The elephant knew just what to do. Trump-da-da! I can fix this. We just need to remember exactly the way things were. But Taylor didn't feel like remembering, so the elephant left. One by one they came, the hyena. Let's laugh about it. The ostrich. Gulp. Let's hide and pretend nothing happened. The kangaroo. Tisk, tisk, tisk. What a mess. Let's throw it all away. And the snake. Shh. Let's go knock down someone else's. But Taylor didn't feel like doing anything with anybody, So eventually, they all left. Until Taylor was alone. In the quiet, Taylor didn't even notice the rabbit, but he moved closer and closer until Taylor could feel his warm body. Together they sat in silence until Taylor said, "Please stay with me." The rabbit listened. The rabbit listened as Taylor talked. The rabbit listened as Taylor shouted. The rabbit listened as Taylor remembered and then laughed. The rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to hide, to throw everything away, to ruin things for someone else. Through it all, the rabbit never left. And then, when the time was right, the rabbit listened to Taylor's plans to build again. "I can't wait," Taylor said. "It's going to be amazing." The end. Thanks be for we, the rabbits. Please do join us for the Children and Family Service being held live on Sunday mornings just before the live service at 9:45 a.m. via Zoom, or for the youth group meeting time on Thursdays at 5 p.m. The links to join these meetings may be found on the website, and you may also reach out to Lily Walker via email for more information or to be connected.
I invite you now to simply be where you are in this moment in time. Take a breath, settle into this moment of our lives together. Feel the slower, deeper, truer rhythm of life. Saying goodbye to loved ones, the hardest thing we ever have to do, and the most inevitable. We all know grief and sorrow and heartbreak in some measure in our lives. And this stretches us. When others around us go through loss, our memory of our own losses leads us to feel compassion for them, for we recognize how painful this is. Over this past year, we have lost 500,000 to this virus. And it has struck its most cruel blows on those least able to sustain it. So much loss. So much loss. Let us be aware of the suffering of those around us. Let us be aware of the suffering within us. Let our awareness of suffering stretch our hearts. Stretch our hearts. And incline them towards compassion. We note with sadness a note from Sylvia Klein, whose brother Charles Schubert passed away on Wednesday, February the 10th, after a long illness. There are many losses during this time. Look around you in your own life, your family, your friendships, your relationships, your neighborhood. Pay attention, and you will discover where compassion is calling you. Compassion is our way. and gratitude. Last evening, we expressed our gratitude to George and Elsa Struble. We will memorialize our gratitude with an annually bestowed Struble Mighty Oak Award. And this is to express our profound gratitude for their leadership and generosity, and for this shining example of courageous, compassionate, and competent leadership. We're grateful to all those who provide the blessings of caring and compassion and guidance. Barbara Stebbins Bowes notes, I am grateful that through Bob Muir, her husband's love and reflection, family members are now housed and out of the cold and damp. Think of your life. Think of who's involved in your life. Think of all that is done for you in one way or another. Think of this. And gratitude will arise. Think of all those things, those people for which you feel gratitude on this day. Gratitude is our path. Compassion and gratitude lead us on. Amen.
In case you'd forgotten how, be sure and look at our website and check on the link that allows you to share your joys and concerns so that we may share them here. And as you can see, we have started the candle ritual back with our service. Thank you.
Our pastoral hymn today is Here on the Paths of Every Day. It's number 312 in the gray hymnal.
Here on the paths of every day, here on the common human way, is all the stuff the gods would take to build a heaven to mold and make new Edens. Ours the task sublime to build eternity in time. We need no other stones to build the temple of the unfulfilled. No other ivory for the doors, no other marble for the floors, no other cedar for the beam and dome of our immortal dream.
The Heart of Understanding by Thich Nhat Hanh. If you look deeply, you will see that there is a cloud floating in this sheet of paper. Without a cloud, there will be no rain. Without rain, the trees cannot grow. And without trees, we cannot make paper. The cloud is essential for the paper to exist. If the cloud is not there, the sheet of paper could not be there either. So we can say that the cloud and paper are inter-are. Interbeing is a word that is not in the dictionary yet, but if we combine the prefix inter with the verb to be, we have a new verb, interbe. If we look into this sheet of paper more deeply, we can see the sunshine in it. If the sunshine is not there, the forest cannot grow. In fact, nothing can grow. Even we cannot grow without sunshine. And so we know the sunshine is also in this sheet of paper. The paper and the sunshine are inter-are. And if we continue to look, we can see the logger who cut the tree and brought it to the mill to be transformed into paper. And we see the wheat. We know the logger could not exist without his daily bread, and therefore the wheat that became his bread is also in this sheet of paper. And the logger's father and mother are in it too. When we look at it in this way, we see that without all these things, this sheet of paper cannot exist. Looking even more deeply, we can see that we are in it too. This is not difficult to see because when you look at a sheet of paper, the sheet of paper is part of our perception. Your mind is in here, and mine is also. So we can say that everything is in here with this sheet of paper. You cannot point out one thing that's not here. Time, space, the earth, the rain, the minerals in the soil, the sunshine, the cloud, the river, the heat. Everything coexists with this sheet of paper. This is why I think the word interbe should be in the dictionary. To be is interbe. You cannot just be by yourself alone. You have to interbe with every other thing. This sheet of paper is because everything else is.
Whenever I'm being interviewed by a group of Christian evangelical students here in this room a few times a year, I've been doing this for several years. Their leader, his name is Tim Walters, he tells the students who are interviewing me, the Christian evangelical students who are interviewing me, and Tim always tells them that the first time I ever saw Tim, he was standing downtown, he was standing next to a big sign that says, "The Gospel Guy." And Tim says that the first time I saw him, I ran away when he tried to speak to me. And I always tell the students that is not true. That is not true. I merely picked up the pace of my walking so I wouldn't have to do any talking. I didn't want to have this conversation. I was being followed by a Christian evangelical, and I knew that this was not going to go anyplace good. I'd had Christian evangelicals try to convert me before, and I didn't see a need to do a repeat of this futile exercise, but Tim, he's tall, he's got long legs and a gently persistent manner, and when he finally did engage me in a conversation, I could see that I was right and wrong. I was right about him wanting to convert me to evangelical Christianity because this is the best thing he can imagine doing for another person, saving their souls. He's very clear about that. As for me, I don't seek to convert Tim to my Unitarian Universalist faith, because that's not the way it works. That's not the way our free faith tradition works. For one thing, there is no there, if you know what I mean. That is, we share common values, but we do not hold common theological views to which we could convert somebody. So you can't convert somebody to Unitarian Universalism, really. You can invite them, and please do. Personally, I have found that if you tell people, if you share with people what you think and feel, and invite or suggest that they explore in certain directions, and they do so, and learn and grow from the experience, then that's all to the good. But it's never my job to coerce or enforce my views. I can share them, and if they ring true for somebody, they're free to accept them or reject them. It's always their choice, not mine. And so, when we're being true to our free faith tradition, we don't go about trying to coerce or convert anyone to our point of view, because that easily becomes a spiritually, psychologically abusive endeavor. We can share our views and our opinions and our beliefs with others, and we should. But whether or not they choose to embrace them, that is their free choice, and it should be. So while I was right about Tim's desire to convert me, and he still has that desire, he sent me a nice Christmas card expressing his desire to convert me, his continuing desire to convert me, and it was well received because he cares about me. But I was wrong in thinking that this type of encounter with Tim and his students would be fruitless, because you never know. You never know where things might lead or what might bear fruit. So I'm glad Tim had long legs and tracked me down that day, because although much fruitful things have come from that, because although we do disagree on our theology, our relationship has become warm and agreeable over the last few years. And I've gotten many opportunities to disagree with him in an agreeable way. And that's been a good exercise for me, learning how to agreeably disagree with somebody. And it's easy to do this with Tim and the many evangelical students who have come here to interview me about Unitarian Universalism and my theology. It's easy to do this with them because they are invariably kind, even when they challenge me on controversial social and theological issues, as they generally do. They ask some hard questions. It's good for me to be able to get up and talk about them and defend my views or account for them or be in dialogue with other people. These young students who come here are sincere young people. I put a label on them, Christian evangelical students. You probably, when we label people, it kind of dehumanizes them, so I want to rehumanize them a little bit. They are sincere young people. They're trying to make sense out of a confusing world, and my hope is that I can confuse them even more, as a way of inviting them to reframe some of the big questions and think for themselves. I also hope that they can see that we actually share much common ground on important matters, and that we, Unitarian Universalists, are not really the monsters that some on the religious right have painted us to be. Now, even as I know that we have our theological and political disagreements, my heart goes out to these young people who are so serious and so sincere. Most of them are from other parts of the United States. Many of them appear to have come from pretty hard scrabble backgrounds, and there is significant racial and ethnic diversity among them. I'll most likely never see them again after they come to interview me, and so whenever they leave, we shake hands, or actually we typically embrace, and I tell them, since I'll never see you again, I want you to have a wonderful life. And I mean that. I mean it. It's been a good experience for me anyway, and I hope for the students. A couple of years ago, Tim contacted me, and he said, out of a sense of fairness, he wanted to turn the tables. And instead of me being interviewed by a group of young Christian evangelicals, he proposed that a group of us, Unitarian Universalists, come to interview a couple of young evangelical students to put them in the hot seat, as he put it. And so it was that a few of us came to participate in this interview. It was a mid-afternoon weekday. It made it hard for many people to get off work and attend, but a few good folks did come. And I knew those people who came, and I knew them well enough to realize that they had some real issues with the conservative evangelical worldview, especially on certain social justice matters. In effect, I knew that the discussion at this meeting was going to be contentious. It might even get a bit heated. Which calls to mind a saying, a question my friend Pete sometimes asks. It's a good question to ask. And he says, "What do you know that ain't so?" I like that question. What do you know that ain't so? That's a question I think we should probably always be asking ourselves. In this case, what I knew about this meeting, well, let me not get ahead of myself. So, two young evangelical women bravely ventured here onto pagan turf to be quizzed by they knew not how many Unitarian Universalists, and we sat. And we asked them questions about their religious beliefs and their spiritual journeys. And as they told their stories, we could tell that for them, the Christian evangelical beliefs they were embracing had changed their lives, giving them something to believe in and hope for and live by. For these two young women, this was better than what had come before. And you could sense that what had come before in their lives had not been good or easy. Sometimes you can just be with a person and talk with them for a while, and you sense that there's been a lot of pain and suffering in the past. And I felt that with these two special young women who came to visit us that day. They were so serious, so sincere, and you couldn't help but admire them for that. And so as the older Unitarian Universalists began questioning these young women young enough to be their grandchildren, I realized something momentous was happening. Instead of drilling down and challenging these young women about their theological beliefs and other social and political matters, the questions asked were more gentle and supportive and encouraging. We recognized that these young women were on their journey, and we could tell that it was not our role that day to argue with them, but to accept them as they were at that moment. So those of you who were here that afternoon and remember that, please forgive me for saying this, but I was taken aback by your unfailing kindness and compassion and your understanding. Not that I don't think that you're kind and compassionate and understanding people, but this encounter had been set up to be some kind of a challenging theological jousting match. And instead we got something much nobler. There was love in the room. I could feel it. Our third Unitarian Universalist principle, we have 7 of them, 7 principles. The third of them states that we covenant to affirm and promote acceptance of one another. It doesn't say that our acceptance of others is conditional. And in truth, you have to meet people where they are, even if you're not there yourself. And even if you don't like the place they are in, if you don't meet people where they are, if you don't meet people where they are, then you don't really meet them at all. And that afternoon, I watched in reverence and admiration as my fellow Unitarian Universalists met these young women where they were. They accepted them. Now, a question immediately arises. Well, what if someone is at a place that I not only do not like, I actively oppose? Are you supposed to accept somebody who comes in and starts spouting white supremacist ideas? No. You accept the person, not their views. You validate the person, not their views. And you recognize that you can have a role in encouraging the white supremacists to explore their own hearts more deeply, to discover that racism betrays us all. It betrays our common humanity. And that is why our third principle states in full, we covenant to affirm and promote acceptance of one another. I already told you that part. And there's an and in there, acceptance of one another and encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregations. Both of those have to be there. Acceptance and encouragement. And even as the older Unitarian Universalists in the room that afternoon met these young evangelical Christians where they were, we were also offering gentle encouragement to continue learning and growing. Have you considered this? Oh, that's good. Have you read this book or thought about this or something? Just gently encouraging them. And if you think about it, there are indeed many people who join Unitarian Universalism today who once embraced the same theology as these sincere young women. And it's not hard to imagine that this encounter that we had that afternoon could bear similar fruit someday in the future as these young women continue to grow and explore. But that was not the day. That was not the day to argue about theology. It was a day to be like the rabbit in Lily's story. It was a day to listen, to understand, to empathize, to make new connections, to let love work its mysterious magic. Simply put, this encounter turned out to be more meaningful than I expected. I thought it was going to be intellectually stimulating, but instead of a clashing of ideas, there was a meeting of hearts and a recognition that each person's journey in life is not the same as ours, and that our first step is to accept one another as we are, not as we wish we would be. Our life journeys can feel so lonely sometimes. Ours is an age of hyper-individualism, and it's taking a high toll. I think of all those orphans or foster children whose lives are devoid of true love and connection, and I grieve the great harm that such a lack does for them. But in a larger sense, I think that there are many who feel like orphans and foster children in our divided, hyper-individualistic society. And that's why it's more important than ever. It's more important than ever to form and sustain communities where people can feel accepted, and then feeling accepted will naturally yearn to grow and will find the encouragement to do so. I would say, we love you just as you are, and you could use a little encouragement. What a great gift it is to offer somebody acceptance that builds trust and encouragement that leads to further growth. An essential aspect of growth comes from a deepening awareness that we're not in this alone. We are in this together. There is that word interbeing, which points to our interconnectedness. Thank you, Thich Nhat Hanh. What a great sage. Thank you, Sarah, for bringing his thoughts to us this morning. And so we have created a spiritual home here dedicated to supporting one another in on our continuing journeys of growth towards such awareness of our interconnectedness. And when I say we, I'm referring to a community that lives longer than any one of us. It came into being before we were here, and it will be here after we're gone. But it deserves the commitment of its members from generation to generation. Without that commitment, that dedication, without the extraordinary generosity it takes for us to be, we would not exist. Extraordinarily generous people have built this place. After our meeting with these young evangelical students that afternoon, it dawned on me what these elder Unitarian Universalists had offered these young women is what we are here to offer one another. Acceptance, the feeling of being listened to, understood, embraced, and encouraged. When we do this, we create a compassionate community which has a ripple effect into our world, touching more lives than you might imagine. Why are we here? That's a big question. I think a big part of the answer is, why are we here? I think a big part of the answer is we're here to bless one another, to bless one another. And our congregation connects us and creates countless opportunities for us to do this. What a beautiful thing to be part of. What a wonderful thing to support through our love and through our generosity. So be it. Will you join me now in a time of reflection as we think of all the opportunities we have in our lives to be with people? How often have we not heard them? How often have we not listened? How often have we not been aware? And yet today is a new opportunity. A new opportunity to learn how to be present, fully present, with an open, loving heart and mind, as we establish trusting relationships which liberate us from fear and isolation. Relationships which help us realize our collective power. It is here that we meet to accept one another as we are. It is here that we come to find the encouragement that we all need. May it be so. Amen.
the prayer flags. And if you weren't at the event yesterday, Lily said that you are more than welcome to still call her or email her and come in, see the sanctuary, make a prayer flag, and continue our hopes and dreams. Thank you, Lily. This is from Max Warren, adapted, found in Lifting Our Voices. Our first task in approaching another people, another culture, another religion, is to take off our shoes. For the place we are approaching is holy. Else we find ourselves treading on others' dreams. As a community at UUCS, we try not to tread on others' dreams. One way we do this is through our contribution to both our shared community and the wider community of Salem. For the month of February, the Marion Polk Food Share is the recipient of the Share of the Plate donations, an organization that is helping thousands have nutritional food so that they too may focus on their dreams. Please send your checks to UUCS or visit the website to donate. Thank you for maintaining the community of UCS and helping the wider community of Salem. We take the light from our chalice, lighting the social justice candle as a symbolic reminder of the light and justice we carry out into the world. As we extinguish the chalice, let us end with one more quote from Thich Nhat Hanh. Because of your smile, you make life more beautiful.
I hope you'll join us after the service today. In 30 minutes, there's going to be a Zoom fellowship gathering. I also hope you'll take the opportunity, you'll explore around on the website to find this. I'm not sure where it will be, but we'll have a recording of last night's celebration. I really hope you'll watch it. We did a special tribute to George and Elsa Struble. We had the prayer flag video, and we had a great time being together. So please do take the opportunity to watch that. Also, please pay attention to the announcements you see flashing on your screen right now. It's Women's Retreat. Looks like that might be coming up. So check with Janet Stevens on that. And there will be other announcements if you stay tuned and explore around on our News of the Community in the website. But that's good enough for right now. Thank you.
Our closing hymn today is Come and Go With Me. It's number 1018 in the Teal hymnal.
Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land. Come and go with me to that land where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land. There'll be freedom in that land where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land. There'll be justice in that land where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound, where I'm bound. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land. There'll be singing in that land where I'm bound.
Please take your right hand, place your left hand in it, and now imagine you are holding hands with everyone here in the community of UUCS as we say our closing words. May faith in the Spirit of life, hope for the community of earth, and love for the sacred in one another be ours now and in all the days to come.